Joe Show, we are back, brother. How are you? This is That SEC Powers Hour. Football is in the air, and we are back. Man, it feels good. How are you doing?
What's up, brother? Doing well. Just sitting here in the studio and, hanging out. Got my new digs behind me here in the studio, trying to make it look like I know what I'm doing.
Aren't we all? What does they say? Fake it till you make it or something like that?
That's right.
Something like that. I think that's the story of our lives. So listen, we broke camp. When we broke camp last time, you and I had a little competition on this show. See, I think when I look back on what this show was last year, nobody really cares about who we picked or the predictions we made. In fact, the more wrong they were, I think the better, right? Because it gave people something to laugh at. But I do think that people started to pay attention when they knew that something was on the line. I think we should take a second here and remind everybody exactly what is on the line on this show. What do you think? You think that's a good idea?
Not?
All right, here we go. Let's just refresh everybody's memories here about what we're playing for on this show. This is high stakes. Let's show you what's up. See that right there?
It's lovely.
That's right. Who's rocking the gold? Who's rocking it? Who's putting it down? Who's showing you what's going? That's right. You know who's rocking it. And right back here, see back here on my shoulder? Right back there?
Yeah, I see that.
That's that beautiful trophy. I know you want it, man. I know you want it. But that's because I love you, because you're my little brother. I'm going to give you a chance to come on in, take another swing at the king, if you know what I'm saying. All right? How you feel about it?
I'll tell you what.
Do you think you're invested this year? Do you think have I amped it up enough to where you're going to be like, man, I actually got to pay attention. I actually got to study.
All right, look. Let me tell you what's really going on here.
All right.
Last year, I was all like, yeah, this is cool. I get to hang out with my brother. We're going to talk some football. And as long as I'm picking against Herb and Raj, I'm good. Right? So I felt like things were on a roll. And then Randy starts talking about this swag, and he's got a trophy, and he's got some bling. And I'm like, whoa. Like, I was not ready. But Herb and Raj, the bullseye's off you. And now it's on the brother. I'm fitting to get like Ric Flair and go limousine riding, airplane flying, diamond ring wearing, trophy having, up here in the Powers Casa, Middle Georgia, year number 2.
Okay. We'll see. It's waiting on you. You know what they say.
Just resize it because you got fat sausage fingers and I don't.
Oh, we're getting personal. All right.
Ooh.
All right. That's fine. I'll remember that when we get down in November. That's right. Nah, man, it's great to have you back. I'm having a good time. And we could not do this. Like, this show, we come on here, we talk about the SEC, we talk about college football, and we're going to get into all that. As a matter of fact, looking ahead to next week, I can go ahead and tell y'all it's going to be busy. It's going to be a fat show, maybe 2 full hours, because we're going to go through the entire Southeastern Conference. But this week, it's not that. This week, it's, man, I'm happy football's back. And if we're going to have a party and we're going to talk about football, then I thought the people who supported this show the most last year are the people that we should welcome into the huddle this year to kick off season 2. So with no further ado, thanks to our partners at Bastion Tactical, have nice pins, our partners at Georgia First Bank, take care of everything you need. We are going to welcome in a couple of our favorite people here in the podcast universe around Georgia football and SEC football. I'm just going to go ahead and get to it. Pop them up on the screen. Let everybody know who it is we're looking at. Everybody welcome in Herb from the Herb and Raj podcast. He's an Alabama fan. That's okay. He's very cool, a good moderator here on the channel, and we thank him for his service. And then you have Coach Hayes. If you follow Georgia football over the last 6 or 8 months and you're on the YouTubes, you've probably seen Coach around here somewhere. And I'm just happy to say that he's finally made it over here to that SEC Powers Hour. Gentlemen, welcome in.
Go ahead. I'll let her take the intro to this one. After
no, I'm trying to figure out how to follow that. That was hilarious already.
That
so
was
like,
absolutely hilarious.
You know, like,
Herb, I'm just happy to have you on the screen, brother. Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. You guys, that was one of the most entertaining hours, like every week. I used to so look forward to it. You know, even when Joe, like, yeah, he was picking against Bama every week. It was a fun time, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next season of it. And look, Joe, big brothers beat little brothers in these pick contests. That's just how it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. See. Hey.
Randy, Joe, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me on. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a chance, to sit in there and watch you guys' show, and have enjoyed it immensely over the last year. You guys have definitely been an inspiration with me and how I've grown my channel, and just definitely love the brotherly love between all those people that support each other and create a nice little fraternity that we have.
Yeah, well, the community is growing for sure. I mean,
Yes,
we that's one of the best parts of it, I think, is that when you get into stuff like this, you can't help but be exposed to different points of view, right? So it's kind of like life. That's one of the best things about football in general. And to see that bleed into this space is something that I really enjoy. And this is the opportunity tonight, I think, for us to really sort of kick back and just talk about it a little bit. And when we were breaking down what we were going to talk about this week, right, to kick off the show, I thought we ought to start at the beginning, which is our love of the game. And I'm behind. See, I'm a time shifter. We were talking about this just a minute ago about how I don't have time to watch TV anymore. Like my brain won't allow me to sit down and watch blocks of television. So I time shift. And just this morning, I got around to watching the first episode of Hard Knocks. And I was telling my wife as we were sitting here watching it, I'm like, the thing about this show, and I say it every year, is it just reminds me of my deep love for the game. Like literally everything about it, right? The sweat, the water spinning off the ball when it's 105 degrees out there, people just dragging themselves back and forth across the grass. Like, all the hard stuff are part of the reasons that I love the game so much, because it gave me so much. It taught me so much. And when I was younger, I used to think about it and be like, man, if I could ever be a football player, that'll be great. And then as I got older, I realized, well, that's not in the cards for me necessarily. And so I played up until college, and then I made a different choice. And I'm like, man, if I can just study the game, if I can be around the game, if I can cover the game. And thankfully, in my professional career, I've been able to do that. And it's one of the greatest blessings of my life. And I'm just so thankful that 6-7-year-old Randy, who dreamed of somehow having something to do with the game as an adult, has figured out a way to do that. Now, I think that's where I want to set the stage and give you a chance to think about it here. I'm going to let Joe go first, but I want to, let everybody know, I want to know how you feel about the game, right? I want to know why it is you love it. And in particular, why you love the teams that you love. So Joe, you have the floor, brother. You go at it. Let us know why it means so much to you, because I think this is what it's all about.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and I'm not even going to tell you about the first show Randy actually did. I don't know if you even recall that, you and Matt Cochran sitting in your bedroom and me with a VHS box camera on the shoulder, right? Acting like I was a film guy when I was like, I don't know. 9 or 10 years old, however old I was at that time. And Randy and Matt sitting there with a box of football cards, and they're just picking up football cards and debating who was better about what and looking at the stats. And it was the most ridiculous thing that you could have possibly seen, but it was so much fun all at the same time. And I'll just tell you, I'm the Dave Craig of quarterbacks in football. That's the way my life has always gone. I drop the ball when I shouldn't. I want to play, but I'm not too big enough. And, I just consider me a Seahawk, I guess, back when they were in the silver and not very good. That's kind of the way I was in football, but I love it. I love spending time with Randy. I went on to play college baseball. That's where my life took me, but this is a lot of fun. I get to talk smack, and I'm always waiting for Bama to lose, so that's fun. And, Randy's here, and I don't know about you, Coach, but you got some Georgia stuff behind you, so it looks like we're going to get along. If not, I'll exit out of the screen here in just a second. I got a bottle of brown water over here that encourages me to do better on this show every week. And thanks to Georgia First for having me here. So there we go. How about it? I found a light over there I'm going to go turn on, too, in just a second. So y'all have at it.
All right. What you got, Chris, man? Tell us, why do you love the game?
Being able to coach it for 22 years. There's something about the investment of that brotherhood that you have when you work with young minds that you are actually molding, and you go through the heartache, you go through the pains, you go through the successes, you go through the good cop, bad cop moments, you go through the tough love, you go through the sweat and the tears. There's a lot of things that go into play when you are a coach of a program and you have investment in young men that you're wanting to see be successful. It's amazing the myriad of things that you deal with when you're out on a football field. But I'm going to tell you what, there's nothing better as we start in Georgia. High school football starts tomorrow night. So there's just that, I don't know, it's like a tidal wave of emotion that goes through watching those young bucks play that I got a chance to coach, to be able to take my expertise and go into the college realm with it and provide just some feedback to those fans who want a little bit more of those X's and O's and give my expertise in those areas. It just makes the heart pitter pat, man. It tugs at the heartstrings. It makes you just understand what it means, because football taught me so many life lessons. It's teaching me still today as a 50-year-old to learn from the failures that I've had in my life and to become successful from those failures and to actually live by the same standards that I tried to teach my kids and coach my kids up every day. There's nothing more fulfilling it just fills your heart up. It fills your soul up. And as a man and as someone you're working with, and you see a kid when the light comes on and those eyes get sort of the bright beams, it's amazing how that feeling is. And that to me just embodies what football is to me, from the high school level, from the collegiate level, and even towards the NFL. Just watching these kids evolve and grow up over their time frame has been really exciting for me to see and just enjoy, man.
No, I completely identify with that. Just this week, or it's actually just a couple of days ago, I posted something on one of the platforms, and I'm sure I won't say it the same way right now, but essentially what I said was, if you are a competitor, if you play sports, and especially if you play football, odds are you're probably going to lose more than you win over the course of your career.
I do.
And you're going to have more losses than you'll be able to remember. But the thing about the wins are, you're never going to forget them. And that's an individual win, right? You win a drill, you win a game, you win, in life, because you start to build these blocks and you take those things forward with you, and it all adds up and carries you forward. I'm 48. I started playing football, contact football, when I was 6 years old. Had to beg my mama, and she let me play at 6 years old. And we used to go out and play behind what at that time had already been a retired elementary school. So the school building was up on the hill, concrete bleachers built into the bank. And then you had a football field that, when it wasn't being used to play football, it was used as a National Guard Armory parking lot. Okay. Yeah. So they would clear it off in the fall, and we'd go play out there in the fall season. It still had grass, so that was great. But there was a huge church just literally on the other side of the National Guard Armory. And the games were always kicking off around 6 o'clock. So at the top of the hour, you would hear that bell toll. To this day, when I hear that bell toll, any bell, but especially that bell, if I'm back home, I feel like that 6-year-old kid. I can smell the grass. I can feel my oversized knee pads and my 2-bar helmet, right? With one green stripe down it. It was white with one green duct tape stripe. That kid still lives inside me, and it's all because of that game. So, yeah, I care about the sport, man, and I care about the way it impacts people. So, Herb, what do you got for us, man? How does football make you feel?
the first thing I've learned is don't go last with this group. Because I don't know how I'm supposed to bet. So I actually grew up a soccer and basketball fan. That's what we grew up in. Dad was in the
Nothing
Army.
wrong with that.
So we were never near any, colleges or whatever. Moved to Germany for our last stint. And then all of a sudden, my dad's last stint, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So in 94, my senior year of high school. So didn't feel like moving again. So I went to University of Alabama. And you guys know you can't go to Tuscaloosa and not all of a sudden become a football fan. Yeah. So right. It just started from, even when it was bad football for a very long time when we first moved there. So that's where we get our humbleness still about it. But yeah, it's just kind of become, especially from someone who used to watch basketball, get up in the morning, that game has changed a lot. When it comes to football, it's so event driven, like, hey, my next week is planned around Saturday popping up. What happened 2:30 yet? Don't call me for a job. My mom doesn't call me during the games. During the SEC championship game a couple of years ago, I think she called me. The game was at 3. She called me at 2:30. So I knew the game hadn't started yet, so I knew you'd still answer. Like, that's the sort of thing. When we got married, my wife, we had already been, dating for a while, engaged at Christmas. So I said, hey, you want to have a quick wedding? We get ready in the spring. She said, no, too quick. I said, how about the summer? She said, too hot. She said, what about the fall? I went and looked up. Alabama's bye week, first week October. She said, we don't have to get married on the bye week. I said, yes, we do. And
yeah, we do.
We got married on the bye week. So that it's just one of those things, man. You look forward to it. You love everybody coming together. You love the way it makes you feel to watch the team kind of run out there and the camaraderie with all the other fans. And even with, you saw how this past year what we had on was people from other teams for the whole summer. So yeah. I love just talking the game with those guys. And it's like that little bit of sadness when the season ends, no matter how your team ended up. It's just like, when's the next game again? So yeah, it's just been a fun ride for sure.
I think that feeling that you're talking about was one of the main things that made me decide to finally take the leap and decide to come on here and talk to people that I don't know about it because I'm like, man, I just really enjoy it. And this way I get to sort of keep my finger in the pie the whole year, and I don't really have to worry about trying to don't get me wrong. I love football. Okay. But I love college football over the NFL. And then, of course, inside of college football, if you break it down, it goes, now we're in the SEC and now I'm down to my Georgia Bulldogs. So being an alum, I just drilled all the way down and said, this is where I'm going to spend my time because this is the thing that interests me the most. Now, I think what I want to do is shift gears just a little bit. And in honor of shifting gears just a little bit, I'm actually going to, shift our background here. So we have a little different something to look at. And this is one of those things where I want you guys, if you will, to just give me your thoughts. And because we all sort of represent different teams here, Chris and I are in the same boat. But you're an Alabama guy, so we'll let you go first this time, Herb. See, it's proof I do love you. It's proof I do love you. I'll let you go first. But tell me about the Crimson Tide. I know we're going to get into our breakdowns and stuff next week, but you're here right now. What are you thinking about the Crimson Tide this year? Do you have any overall feelings as we get into the season?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how in-depth you want. I feel good coming into the season, as good as a person can be when you lose a legend in your off season. So I feel like Coach DeBoer is going to do a good job. I don't feel like it's similar to the situation when Saban first started. I think the cupboard wasn't bare when he left. I know they recruited well, transfer portal was well, and a number of people stayed, especially in key positions. So I think they're going to be fine. And people, whenever I say that, people, so you think they're going to win national? I didn't say national championship. I just said I think they're going to be fine. I don't think it's going to be like a 6-6 season. I can almost live with any outcome up there. My favorite number has been 10-2 is where I think we'll kind of lie. I don't think we're, I would have put us outside the top 10 to start the season just because I don't like being moved up. And I think when Paul even has the 4, I think that's too high. But I like where we are starting the season. I think DeBoer has done as well as anybody can when you have to replace a legend. So I feel good about the season coming up.
Okay, well, since you kind of left it open-ended there, I'm going to throw it to the panel here. Boys, Nick Saban has walked away from the game. Now, listen, here's the thing. As a Georgia fan, right, I want to beat everybody all the time. And of course, I want to beat the best there is. And that would be Nick and his Alabama Tide. So the fact that he walked away, it's kind of a bummer. But it's a fact. It's a reality, right? We're moving into a new era here in college football inside the conference. So what are your thoughts on Nick Saban stepping away, Joe?
Well, I think what you're going to see with Nick Saban stepping away is I'm not going to talk about the program itself, but I'm going to talk about what the rest of the teams perhaps may perceive about the program and what that can turn into for the other coaches as far as, red meat, if you will, for their teams and their organizations. I think it's going to be one of those things where they will have other coaches in the SEC will have the opportunity to dangle what could be a juicy piece of red meat in front of their teams to motivate them and say, hey, look, the door isn't just going to be closed after, Bama and Georgia or Georgia and Bama. We all have an opportunity to go out here and play well. And I think you're going to see that turn into or translate into a lot more activity and fun on the field. I think you're going to see games and conversation around those games that will be more enlightening all throughout, especially the early third of the season. So I think, everybody knows that Bama's not going to fall off the earth by any stretch. They're going to be a good, solid program because they've got good, solid players. But the opportunity around conversation and transfer portal and all of that will be something that will keep the first third of the season much more invigorating and rigorous when it comes to chirping and, expectations around the league. So that's kind of the way I see it. And then people are going to realize that Bama is still Bama, and they're just going to settle into what Bama looks like under a new coach.
You hear that, college football fans? Joe's out here telling you, so you're telling me there's a chance. That's what you're saying. Joe's peddling some hope.
He's going to pick against us every week, so of course he thinks
that's true.
Chris, man, what do you got? Thoughts on Saban? We can't not talk about it.
Yeah. Proof is going to be obviously when the scoreboards start lighting up, when games are actually played and talking season's over with. You can't replace Nick Saban. So what's unique is how Kalen DeBoer is going to establish his culture. I'm very intrigued about what this new Alabama football program is going to look like. And Herb, you mentioned it a while ago that made a lot more sense to me, because I've been really trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together to try to understand what's their identity this year. But you're right. When Saban took over, the cupboard was bare. They did lose, some significant key players, but a lot of their guys stayed. And with that, it's a matter of developing your OC and DC culture, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator culture around what you're going to see in play this year. I think they need to play to, Milroe's strengths. He's a running quarterback. You need to utilize him very similar to how Florida did with Tebow. Don't put him into Penix's offense from Washington. If you do that, I find that to be something that might be unsuccessful, and you're dealing with more woes than successes. Play to his strengths, let him roll out, let him have the option to run with his legs a lot more, those kinds of things. But as far as that's the big key to me, is that Saban set such a precedence in his culture that he established over 15 years, and then now it's gone. And with that, we have NIL, we have all the different commodities that are coming into college football now. We have a 12-team playoff bracket this year, and I'm just really interested to see the culture or the identity that DeBoer brings into the Tide this year.
Yeah. Can I touch on one thing real quick? Sorry, Randy, I don't know if you were headed somewhere else, but the what you said about playing to his strengths, like you could just tell Reese did not do that. I feel like Tommy Reese last year wanted Buckner to be his guy. So I don't want to say sabotage, but you could just tell he was not totally invested in Milroe. Buckner got his chance. It was awful, so bad that he switched sports, and then when he came back to the sport, he switched positions. So that tells you all you need to know about that. And then you can just tell from that time on, it was like they spent, like the bye week actually getting to know each other. I probably went out on a couple of dates and actually learned each other's names. And the play calling was a little bit better. But we actually had the Oregon guy on who pointed it out, his thoughts about Reese. He was like, every other OC that leaves Alabama goes on to a head coaching job. He said, except Tommy Reese. That tells you all you need to know about last year's play calling. So no, he didn't adapt at all to Milroe. So,
Well, that's a pretty good
Exactly.
touchstone right there. I mean, that gives you some perspective on, how he fared. But okay, so we're going to come back to where we started. And I'm going to finish up with you, Herb, here before we move to Chris. And I just, it's not so much now. We're getting closer to the season. We've seen how things are going in camp, so on and so forth. I think people have calmed down a little bit. But I'm telling you, Herb, from like, I don't know, the middle of February, maybe early March, right up until May, my social media was just full of Alabama folk, most of which I didn't know, who just really wanted to try to convince me that the Crimson Tide were somehow going to embrace new math and be better now that Nick Saban's gone. So I'm just curious. Were you ever in that school of thought? Are you in that school of thought? They're going to be better without the greatest coach of all time than they were with him.
No, I've never. They're going to be different.
Yeah.
The expectation level for DeBoer is just the team is going to look different. As you mentioned, the culture. I mean, DeBoer has actually been on social media. That's already a huge change, so he's a little bit more in touch with the kids. But I was never, ever. I mean, to say that they're going to be better than what they had under Saban, are you trying to discount Saban? I'm not you. I'm saying like to the fans that think that. Are you saying so he wasn't a legend? Is that what we're saying? So no, but part of the thought of DeBoer, like I said, having good season goes back to what Saban laid the foundation for, and his leadership group actually sticking around. Like no matter what you think about Milroe and his skill set, that was a leader of your team last year. He's still here this year. So there is still a lot going on, that's good for the team. But no, if your expectation level is he's going to be better than Saban, then, I mean, you probably came along during the Saban era, and true Alabama fans don't like the Saban era Alabama fans. Like, you've had to have been there for some of those DeBose years or the years where you have a coach who doesn't even coach a game. Like, you have to be there for all that before you can actually tell me, hey, and I know, look, ours started in 94, so I'm not as older as a lot of Alabama fans. But we did see a lot of bad football, and we're kind of like, look, can you not just appreciate, what's going on? The best thing for them will to not compare DeBoer or anything that goes on to Saban. Saban's a legend, will always be a legend. Let that be. And let DeBoer, kind of forge his own path here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let me say this too, Randy, before we Let me say this before we move on.
Sure.
And I just want to say this in Herb's presence, right? I will tell you that I think personally, somebody hit record. I think Saban was one of the most intellectual, highly emotional IQ.
Yes.
One of the highest emotional IQ coaches I've ever seen. One of the smartest men I've ever seen when it comes to individually being able to motivate players, and his strategy and his tactics and all the intricate, like very subtle details that he took from his players, from his teams, and applied them, individually to their specific players' needs and desires. A lot of what you heard Coach speaking to, and why he enjoys the sport. But I think Master, there's never been one greater. I don't think there'll be one greater than what he was able to do in that space. And it's kind of sad to not see him on the sideline, but still picking against Bama.
And we'll clip it right there, and we'll just read that up. All right, so before and to be clear, Herb, I never thought that was all of Alabama people, but I swear the only ones that seemed to be wanting to talk to me were the ones who were telling me that. I just couldn't believe it. So before we broaden this out to college football, Chris, let's talk them Dogs for a second, my brother. What are you thinking? Just treetop level. What are you thinking from the Dogs this year? We all know they're going to be pretty good. Right? I mean, we expect them to be pretty good. So what are your expectations?
Well, when you're in the trenches with, say, your program, the one thing to me that always made or let me see success in programs that either I coached against or coached with was how developed and how experienced you were on the offensive and defensive lines. And honestly, without the circumstance of injuries, we ain't going to get into injuries right now, I think that Georgia brings back one of the most experienced offensive lines that we've had, I think, in the time that I've been a Georgia fan, honestly. We are seriously anywhere from 12 to 13 deep. We have now brought back a good running back group. We obviously have Carson Beck. We have a receiver group that I think is about 6 deep, even with Ra Thomas being gone. But I'm going to ask this question, believe it or not. I'm going to try to be the skeptic here. I'm really interested to see how Mike Bobo evolves our offense now that we no longer have Brock Bowers, our bell cow on offense. I really am interested to see the identity that he brings to the offense now when you don't have someone. You know, we can talk about Delp, you can talk about Lawson Lucky, you can talk about Ben Urasek, but honestly, I think I'm really curious to see how he evolves without Brock Bowers in that lineup, because we did rely on him a lot of times in isolation plays and things where being our top receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, honestly, I really worry more about our secondary than I do our defensive line. I think our defensive line is going to come along with these mid-years but these redshirt sophomore, redshirt juniors, and maybe even 1 or 2 possible mid-year kids that are 2024 recruits, adding depth along with those youngins who are right now dealing with some soft tissue injuries, and they'll be ready probably by game 1 except for Jordan Hall. But I'm really wondering how we're going to handle that outside with the cornerback 2, cornerback 3 position, because I think Dalen Everett's got the cornerback 1 spot lined up. You got Malachi Starks, and believe it or not, Dan the Man Jackson, I think, is going to be shoulder to shoulder with him out there at that other safety. I'm really curious to see who they're going to be picking on this year with either Harris or Humphreys over at that other position. What I'm really excited to see, though, is Janelle Aguero is taking probably Tyke Smith's. We don't realize how important Tyke Smith was to our defense, both being able to be a run defender and a pass defender as well. And Janelle Aguero is going to have to step up this year and be that guy. And I'm telling you, he should be good, because every day in practice he's having to cover Dominic Lovett in that slot, being a nickel. So I think that's what I like to see from the defensive side of the ball. It's exciting because you get to see some of those young kids grow up a little bit and get excited about them, and then you see the veterans doing their job. And then on offensive, I really want to see the scheme and the design that Bobo is going to develop now that he doesn't have Brock Bowers in the lineup, and be able to envelop, an Arian Smith, and Dominic Lovett and Dylan Bell. And, look at that, that rotation of guys, and see what we do with this new identity. We're going to be able to run the football, I think, very well. But I'm really interested to see if we see Carson Beck being that prolific, Heisman Trophy contender by the end of the year. How are we going to vertically stretch defenses? How are we going to throw the ball downfield? How are we going to utilize our receivers that we have without Brock Bowers in the offense?
Yeah, well, those are both good points, and I mean, not for nothing, I can offer a couple of quick little thoughts. One, I think we're going to embrace. I mean, if you're absolutely right about the lines of scrimmage, and what's the point in having those guys if you're not going to use them? So I think we're really going to embrace that run game with a little attitude. We're going to see that develop as the season rolls along, and if that works, then we're just going to see those Georgia versus Mississippi pockets that we saw last year for Carson.
Right.
And if that happens, it's Katie bar the door, because it doesn't matter which one of those 3 dudes that he might want to throw the ball to. Yeah. He has the ability to process in such a way that he's going to find the guy that's open, and that's bad news for whoever they're playing. So it is interesting. I'm with you. It's going to be interesting to see how they get there, but I think that's where we're going to end up. And as far as the defense is concerned, I am stock up. I have questions, but I am stock up across the board, because I think I know what we can see from these young dudes, but they still have to go do it. So I'm really optimistic. I'm hopeful. Stock up, but we'll see. We shall see.
Exactly.
So let's broaden it out just a little bit. Joe, do you want to chime in on Georgia? I mean, when I look at you, man, I see you as somebody who's having a good time and along for the ride. Do you want to say anything about the Dogs or anybody else before we move on to the national scene?
Well, really, the biggest thing that I'm curious about with the Dogs, and I think everybody on this call will understand this, is Bobo has a tendency, right? And we've seen this. People have talked about Bobo. And I like Bobo, but will he break that Bobo mold and tendency? Will he keep the pedal to the floor? Will he open it up and not try to control the game, control the clock, control tempo like people have seen Bobo do and talk about, other people outside of Georgia has been like, oh, well, if he'd have just kept the hammer down, if we'd have opened the offense up, if we'd have done these things. But Bobo has that kind of tendency. I just want him to get out of that Bobo shell and run the offense like we saw it run in his absence. And I hope he does that. If he does, I think Carson walks away with a Heisman, and Georgia's just going to be, lambasting people. But we'll see how it goes.
Now, that's a whole other can of worms, right? Because the head man puts the governor on the throttle sometimes, if you know what I mean. He's the one who can rein it in and be like, we're just going to squish them a little bit right here. But we'll see. That's part of the reason. Again, I talked about it on my other show this week. That's part of the reason when you're talking about these top tier teams, the top 6 or 8 that actually have a chance to win the national title, they're not worried so much about effort or talent on the roster or any of those things. They're worried about winning at the margins. What can I do to get razor sharp, be just a little bit better? And every time you get just a little bit better in 10 different areas, those things add up, and that's how you win titles. So I think that's where the Dogs are really looking, right? So everything's equal. People stay healthy. I think that is the thing that I'm going to be paying attention to. It's not, is he open? It's, could he do it better? That sort of stuff. And that's a high bar. So nationally speaking, Herb, college football is it's new. It's like we took it, threw it in the dryer, turned it on high, and just dumped the laundry out on the floor. Now we got 12 teams in a playoff. We got rid of the 4-team thing. Conferences are telling me they're super conferences. I don't know, man. This is not the college football I grew up with. Does that mean it's bad? Or am I going to be happy?
You're going to be happy because it's college football. But I don't know if it makes me feel like an old man. I don't like where the sport's heading at all. I fear what it's going to look like in 5 years. NIL is not doing what they thought it was going to do. They thought you'd get to a school and then we'd take care of you. Now it's like, we'll take care of you to get you to the school. It's totally changed the way it's the free agency at its worst level. NFL free agency isn't like that. You know what I mean? You still have to sign up a contract. So, but back to the original, man, we're still going to enjoy it. I think the better teams are still going to rise to the top. I don't think you're seeing like an NCAA tournament type thing where like the 11 seed is going to come win the whole thing, or whoever it is from the group of 5. I still think the top teams are going to be the top teams. So, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'll complain about the 12 teams. I'll say I think it's too much, but will I be watching those first round matchups? Absolutely. So.
Of course. Well, and I joked about this last year. I'm like, if you're doing what we're doing, which is sitting behind a microphone and just talking about this kind of stuff, it's like a never-ending buffet for us. We can just pick a topic, close our eyes and throw the dart, and we're probably not going to hit the same topic that someone else is talking about. So there's plenty to get through out there. So in that regard, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm interested in just how much the other conferences outside of the Big Ten and the SEC, so the ACC and the Big 12, I'm really curious about the competition in those leagues. I'm curious about, can they get more than one entrant into the 12-team field? Stuff like that. So that's what's going to keep me interested. But of course, my bread's buttered here inside the Southeastern Conference, right? I'm worried about Oklahoma and Texas and LSU and Florida and, all the Tennessee. Oh, don't even get me started. There's an article that came out today in Nashville, A to Z Sports or something like that's I think the name of it. I don't even want to get into it, but I got to say this, that article, he knew who he was writing for. Let me just put it that way. And so he couched every argument he made in such a way that if you actually know anything about the Georgia program, which is the one he invoked in his article, then you understand that article is like, man, what are you doing? So I'm not going to give it any more credence than that, but just know that it's one of those things out there where you're like, come on, man. Like the journalist in me was crying. I was like, come on, brother. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Can I say something real quick? I know I've talked a little too much, so I'm going to make this one quick.
Yeah.
Last night on our show, or I'm sorry, Tuesday night on our show, we did a preview of all the non-SEC teams.
Yep.
Right? All the non-SEC conferences. We did, Big Ten was like 30, 35 minutes of the show. ACC got like 10 minutes, and then the Big 12 got like 5. And that tells you probably all you need to know about what everyone thinks kind of the other conference. And that's not just us, the Bama guys. You know, we had other guys on the show too as well. And that's kind of what everybody thinks of the other conferences. Well, so I really think it is SEC and Big Ten with multiple, and the other two conferences are going to get one and be scraping for that second.
I've said for months, I agree with everything you just said, but I've said for months that I do think the Big 12 is going to probably be the most entertaining conference, simply because it's so level. Now I couldn't tell you who's going to win it. I could, just pull a name out of a hat, but I do think it'll be fun to watch. So, Coach, what are your thoughts nationally speaking? When you look at the 12 team, or do you want to jump and dig into the Big 10 or anything like that? What are you thinking about this new college football?
Well, I'll go across the board kind of the way you did in its hierarchy. I first off think the 12-team playoff is going to water down the conference championship issues, because I'm almost interested to see a team that's in the top 4 have a home playoff game. Can you imagine the atmosphere of having a home playoff game at Sanford Stadium, being a number 1 seed coming in after a bye week? I know people put a lot of merit into the SEC championship game. Kirby Smart himself has said it, but I think it gets to the point in time where you have all these teams and the way they're set up that it's ending up, to me, watering down the conference championship games. SEC play, I'm excited about Texas and Oklahoma coming in here, because what that does is hopefully establishes another nice rivalry with two teams you didn't expect. I hate Florida. I hate Tennessee. Those are two teams that I take very, literal when we play them. I respect Alabama, but I want to beat them. It's a different, rivalry when you play those guys. But to bring in Oklahoma and Texas, two very, for the most part during my time growing up, were powerhouses in the game up until the 2000s, and then became a little more irrelevant as time went on. But, it comes down to, I'm interested to see who becomes the new rivalry of those two games. I know Texas A&M wants a part of Texas, but I'm really interested what team from the East and what team from the West really mix with that team very well to create a new rivalry that we'll be talking about down the road. In Big Ten play, I'm interested to see what Dan Lanning in Oregon does in the Big Ten. I'm really interested to see if he just goes in there and kicks tail. I'm excited for him. I like him as a coach. I think he is the perfect fit for the Oregon Ducks, and I really have hated watching. It seemed just a washout conference of just Ohio State and Michigan every year playing either in, the Horseshoe or playing in Michigan Stadium there in Ann Arbor, and that being the game every year that basically detects who's your Big Ten champion. So I'm glad that we've got some more competition coming in. Hopefully that's going to start leveling that out a little bit. You're right about the Big 12 conference. I don't really know. I think Colorado has created so much negative vibe for themselves. It's almost kind of a clown show out there. And you said it's going to be most entertaining. That's going to be because of the level field that's out there. And Colorado is one of those teams that I'm really interested to see, what's going to happen with everything with that. So the ACC, who knows? It's something that just continues to evade me as why and how, with Clemson seemingly falling off, that hopefully we see more of the competition in the ACC as well, and it's not so heavy at the top like it's been for the last few years. It's been nice to see Florida State get back up there after being knocked down for so long. So, I don't really know if we're going to see level playing fields across the board, but I think you're going to see a lot more teams in each conference now because of the way they've been realigned. I think you're going to see more than just per se two teams fighting always for that top spot. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 more teams now that you're going to be looking at in each conference you're going to see more competition from.
Oh, that's exciting. We all like good college football. So if that's how it shakes out, then I think I'll be fine. Because like I said, my bread's buttered here in the Southeastern Conference. But if I can get a good game out there in the Big 12, I don't know, give me whatever looks like a good one. And give me Utah in the Big 12. I'll just say that.
Utah, give me 2.
Yeah, I liked them. I liked them Utes. Them Utes do pretty good. I was going to add one thing. It's really unique because I was really getting excited about Missouri. Believe it or not, Drinkowich. I know a lot of people don't think Missouri belongs in the Southeastern Conference, but I was finally glad that we were seeing more consistency out of an SEC East team that was beginning to come to the surface for us and being able to be one we were talking about every year of being a game we must win. for the SEC championship instead of it always being Florida and Tennessee. And then, of course, they take us out by the realignment. We're not even playing Missouri this year.
Right.
And they're going to be a pretty good football team. So that's just really cool how these realignments happen. And that's the reason why I'm excited to see what pans out, what filters out from that.
Just regionally speaking, that seems like a no-brainer that they're going to have some fun tussles with Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas, kind of like the old Big Eight or the Southwestern Conference or however you want to frame it. Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun to watch. Well, fellas, thank you so much for spending, I don't know, the better part of an hour here with us talking about a little college football as we walk our way back into it. It's a glorious time of year, and you guys have set the table for us, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Before you get out here, Herb, let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on. Even though you're a Bama dude, we still love you.
Hey, we welcome everybody, man. Herb and Raj podcast. We're on every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Time. You can see us on YouTube. We welcome it. Like this summer, we spent the whole summer inviting people in from other teams to come talk about their teams the whole time, man. We love the camaraderie. And then you can check us on out on Twitter, whatever you're calling these days, at Raj_Herb. The only time I ever let the younger brother get a little shine before me. So come check us out. Love the conversations, man. We're always looking to talk to new people.
Awesome. And Chris, I'm going to roll out the red carpet, man. Let them know you seem to be, if anybody's busier than me, it might be you. So let them know where they can find you.
First off, let me say, Joe, Herb, Randy, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. I appreciate the time to be here and be able to share a little love with my brothers. Herb, especially, I know being a Bama fan, I may give Bama a hard time, but just listening to you talk tonight, I have really enjoyed hearing you have really humbled me in understanding a little bit more about what a true Alabama fan is, honestly, and it's one that I appreciate tremendously. I just want you to know that. But you can find me out there on all social media outlets at Coach Hayes Huddle. I am right now in the midst of working with John Smith at John Tweet Sports with the Dog Dispatch. We do a weekly podcast, and then, of course, I do my stuff on the side with breaking down film play and just understanding schemes and all the different things that come with the fundamentals of football. And that's what I try to do, is connect the fan to the fundamentals of football. So it's at Coach Hayes Huddle on all social media outlets, Huddle spelled HUDL.
See that, guys? We are saving the world and making it a better place, one podcast at a time. Fellas, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate you for being here with us. Y'all have a good evening, and I'm just going to bring Joe back in here with me. Thanks for stopping by, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe. Now that, if you ask me, was a pretty good way to spend the better part of an hour. I don't know.
Yeah,
thoughts?
That's good stuff right there. I mean, anytime I get to hang out with Herb, that's good. Coach, I hadn't had the chance to hang out with Coach yet at all, but that was a lot of fun. And I want to give some shout outs to our folks over there in the chat. I've been watching them, Dr. Gonzo and Christy and Buckeye's Battle Cry and all these folks. Appreciate you guys chiming in there. It's been fun, and it's always fun to talk football. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I got to get ready. Got the old lungs and the throat ready. Got some high school football action on the airwaves tomorrow night. I'll be calling that stuff. So I'll be back in the Dublin Irish radio booth, and just a little warm-up session for me here tonight. But fun talking to you again, Randy. Didn't get to talk any smack about any of the other SEC teams, but we got all season to do that.
Now, before you run away, can you give me 10 minutes? Because I'd like to introduce you to a new friend.
Oh, yeah. I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, let's check this out. Look at what we got right here. Check this out. I ran into a fellow the other day on Twitter. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I'm doing this cool thing. Do you like music?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do you like to party and have a good time?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Do you like college football?" I said, "Brother, I do." He said, "Well, I got this thing I want you to know about right here." And he's telling me about an event that's going to happen the Friday before the big kickoff game down in Atlanta between Clemson and Georgia. It's Fan Fest. And what this is exactly what the poster says it is. You go to this location, you're going to have 3 awesome bands, all tied in some way to the 2 schools that are participating. You're going to have a wonderful venue, and it's all family friendly. You can go get a bite to eat, grab a cold one if you want to, be hanging out with, Bulldogs and Tigers and whatever you want. It's the perfect way to roll into the opening of the season. And I said, well, man, that's a good idea. I like it. Why don't you come on here and let the world know about it? Let the people know about what you got going on. So let me give you just a little bit more of an example of what we're talking about here, Joe. I said this is going to take place, is what it's called. And it's literally less than 2 miles from the stadium. But if you look at what we see on the screen here, they got a big, huge outdoor plaza. You got spaces for the live bands, like I said, to play and have a good time. You're going to have 2 open bars, a restaurant. You can literally get anything you want, and it's family friendly. So much so that I'm going to take the missus and the girls, and we're going to go down there and check it out the night before Clemson gets one hung on them by them Bulldogs down at Mercedes-Benz to start the season. Do you think that's a pretty good idea? Do you think this looks like a whole lot of fun?
Let me see. Live music.
Yeah, yeah.
Social.
Yeah, yeah.
And football.
That's it.
Check all the boxes, brother. That's big time.
I'm telling you, that's what I thought. So I'm not just going to talk about it because it's not my event. I am going to show up, but I do have the guy who's bringing it all together. My new friend, Ben Bounds, is here, and he's going to tell us everything we want to know about FanFest. You ready? You want to meet him?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome. Let's bring him on in here and see what's
ticket.
up.
Somebody give me a ticket.
I know, man. We're about to get into that. Hello, Ben. How you doing, man?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
It is a good night here in Georgia. I mean, I know you're down on the coastline out there in Charleston. How's the weather?
It's been good this week. We had a little bit of rain this week, but for the most part, it's been pretty good. We've, the temperatures have gotten back up to 90 and the humidity up around 87%. So it's been, you get about halfway to the car and you've already sweat through your clothes and you're ready to change clothes again. You haven't even left to go to work yet. So, it's that time of year, but, we're not complaining. I hate cold weather, so I'll take the sweaty, hot, humid, muggy, buggy Charleston, South Carolina weather all day.
Storm didn't treat you too bad. I asked because I know y'all had some weather up that way recently, and there's a lot of rain and stuff. I mean, did y'all get through it okay?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was hairy here for a little while Monday, and honestly all week last week. It kind of came and went. The hurricane came through. It went out in the ocean for a day and a half, and it came back. So the eye passed over Charleston twice. So that was kind of crazy. And, we got 2 feet, over 2 feet of rain, which, wow. I mean, it's only happened. I can count how many times that's happened in a 3 or 4 day span in the 15 years I've lived here. I count that on one hand. So a lot of rain. I live in a neighborhood with that's right next to, it's less than a mile from the beach, but it's surrounded by marsh. And we're about a mile from a wildlife refuge. So we've got 10 to 12 foot alligators and coyotes and raccoons and foxes and every day. Yeah. I mean, the weather was so wild. I mean, every time I looked out the window, there was a dozen deer and a dozen raccoons in the backyard and an alligator sitting on the bank of the creek. And it's just like, I mean, between the torrential downpour and then the, imminent death, if you walk outside, I was like, I'll just hang out inside all week.
Oh, you got to forgive me. Indulge me just a little bit. I'm a little bit of a meteorology nerd. I love it. And so I had to ask and make sure everybody got through it okay. I'm glad to hear that y'all didn't float away. So that's a good thing.
No, it was all right. We got through it, and, being able to work from home for really what ended up being 5 days, kind of made for a pretty productive week last week, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, let's make it a good thing. So
absolutely.
Ben, I tried to sort of roll it out for the people, what got us hooked up together and what we were talking about. But I want to open the floor to you and just let you sort of fill in the gaps that I'm certain I left out there about this really cool looking event that you've put together ahead of the Clemson, Georgia game on the 30th down here in Atlanta. Let the people know about FanFest and why they might want to come out as part of their kickoff weekend.
Yeah, so look, this was a concept we rolled out last year in September of the 2023 season, and we went to Columbia, South Carolina for the Mississippi State game, and it was the same scenario. We went into a brewery with 3 bands on Friday night before the game. We had over 2,000 people come through the brewery in about a 6.5 hour span. We had both schools sent their alumni associations there. We had NIL representatives that were speaking about how to contribute to the NIL. We had associate athletic directors speak. Mississippi State brought their cheerleaders and their mascots to put on a performance. There were kids everywhere. You know, we had 4-generation families there, where you had the grandparents, the parents, the kids, and then the grandkids. It was wild. When I say it's all ages and it's for the whole family, we literally had the whole families there last year. And so, piggybacking off of that success, we tried to find a great game this year to bring the concept to a couple of new fan bases, and we landed on the Clemson-Georgia game. I met the owners of the Westside Motor Lounge back in November, and we hit it off big time, and their venue is amazing. I drove over to Atlanta and checked it out in person, and I knew right when I pulled up that was the spot, and reached out to Jupiter Coyote. You know, Matt Mays is a former SEC athlete himself, the front man for Jupiter Coyote. Played basketball at South Carolina for a little while before transferring to Wofford. And that's a band that sold over 3 million records in the 90s. And so, they're, I don't want to say nostalgia act, but, they're very well known in the late 30s to mid 50s age Georgia and Clemson fan bases because they toured mostly Southeast. And I think Matt told me they have something like 20 sellouts at the Georgia Theater or something crazy like that in Athens. So very, very familiar with the Georgia fan base as well as the Clemson fan base. And then we have the Pink Stones from Athens. They're going to open the show at 4:00. Super pumped to have them on the bill. Very popular band there among the Georgia faithful in and around Athens. And then Dazer, a rock band from Clemson, is going to close the show out after Jupiter Coyote, who plays in the middle. And so they're the youngest band, so we put them on latest, just so the young kids would have maybe have the place, be able to close it out, at the end of the night. And so super pumped to have both towns represented and then have a band that both fan bases will know playing in the middle. So we stacked it that way intentionally. We think it's going to be a great draw. We've been talking to Classic City Collective about them coming and doing their NIL pitch, probably between the Pink Stones set and the Jupiter Coyote set. They are slotted to go on right at 5:30. So they're going to speak. They're going to take the stage right when the Pink Stones get done with their set. So if you've got Georgia fans that are looking to come and join us, that their band, the band from Athens, starts at 4:00. Classic City Collective comes on at 5:30. Jupiter Coyote hits the stage at 6, and they aren't done till 8. So that 4 to 8 time frame for Georgia fans should be rocking. Today we confirmed 3 artists that all attended UGA that make Georgia-inspired artwork, paintings, and acrylics, and prints, and things like that. So really pumped to have that, just to add another layer of camaraderie to the event. And like I said, it's kid-friendly. We're looking into possibly bringing in a jump castle for kids, but we're also going to have drink specials. We're going to have food specials. We've got 3 liquor sponsors on board. We're waiting to hear back from a beer sponsor. I think that's going to happen tomorrow. So a lot of people getting involved. Really, really excited about the lineup that we have. And I can't wait to get to Atlanta and get the football season kicked off on Friday, August 30th at Westside Motor Lounge.
See, Joe, I don't come with an empty barrel. See, I told you, man. I told you that if I'm going to be associated with it, it's got to be a good time, right? I mean, what do you think? We call you show for a reason. I mean, tell me, is there anything you heard there that prompted any questions for Ben? Anything you might want to know about the show that's going on? Because I told you, I'm already sold. I'm already in.
Yeah, Ben, that's big time right there, man. Let me tell you, I as a guy that went to school in South Carolina over at Newberry, kind of. Yeah, that's where I played ball. That's that jersey hanging right there behind me, actually. But that sounds like a blast, man. And I can't wait to be there. The old radio guy in me is just fired up about the fact that I can go over there and have some live entertainment. So, if you need a pseudo sidekick MC, let me know. You know what I'm saying? I'll be there. It sounds like a lot of fun. And yep. I can't wait to mix some music, football, and maybe a little beverage in there. Sounds like a blast. It really does. So I think it's kudos to you for a great idea, bringing it to the Georgia Clemson game's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see it. It sounds like something I got marked on my calendar now.
Yeah, and hey, look, I wanted to correct Randy real quick. The venue is actually 0.9 miles from Mercedes.
There you go.
I mean, it's walking distance. They advertise it on the website as being walking distance from the stadium, and they have had several events. This is their second football season in business, and so they've had some events that were based around college football that were very, very successful in their first year. So we are super pumped to be going in there this year. And, the bands that we have, it's interesting. They all kind of got their start really with, on college campuses. The Pink Stones formed while they were students at Georgia. Jupiter Coyote actually formed while Matt was, I think, a senior at Wofford. But they made their hay at UGA, Bama, Auburn, Tennessee, Clemson, South Carolina, UNC. That was their. I mean, look, you have to understand. I'm 45. I grew up sneaking into bars with a fake ID to hear Jupiter Coyote in the 90s. When I was in high school, and then when I was a freshman and sophomore at Mississippi State, they played at my fraternity house twice. And then they were so big. One year we had to rent a farm that was about 10 miles off campus. And we had to go in with two other fraternities and maybe a sorority or two just to book them because they were peaking. They were playing shows to 5,000 to 10,000 people, and so I've known these guys forever. And they, their song Crazy Women, was played on college radio for the better part of 2 decades. And
that's awesome.
So really excited to have them on board. And Dazer right now is the hottest, Greek or campus band at Clemson. Those kids they basically play a frat gig and a club gig every single weekend during football season, either in Clemson or in Columbia or in one of the surrounding college towns. So really pumped to have that. It's going to have a real college rock feel to it. And that's one of the things we're most excited about. There's so many alumni that are actually playing on stage. That's really part of what the draw is, I think. And so just can't wait to get there and see all the red and black and all the purple and orange.
So now I got to ask you, man, what house are you?
I'm an SAE. I pledged in 97 at Mississippi State and was there for 2 years and then lived in New Orleans for a year and then transferred to Ole Miss and finished there.
I hear you. Like I said, I went to Newberry, so I'm a teak over there from Newberry, South Carolina.
Nice.
So that's cool.
Oh, look at you guys. Look at you guys. Fast friends. What can you say? I want to spin it forward just a little bit. And just before we move on, though, I want to let you know, you were talking about Jupiter Coyote. I was talking to someone this morning about that band and mentioned that they were going to be at Fan Fest. And immediately when I said that band name, the guy I was talking to was like, oh, yeah, man, I know them. They, because he was in school back in the window where they were really popular. So it was one of those deals you're right in the sweet spot there. So if you guys are looking for the perfect way, whether you're going to the game or not, because those tickets don't come cheap. So whether you're going to the game or not, now you have a good way to kick off your college football weekend. Head on out to Fan Fest. And it's going to be a good time. So you can't come.
And, our tickets are cheap. That's one good thing about it. Our tickets are only $20 to $25. So, we wanted to make it an affordable event so that families could come and not break the bank the night before. We really wanted to give them an opportunity to have a great event that didn't, dig too deep into their pockets.
Right. And kids get in free, right? You did say that.
Right. Yeah. 12 and under get in free. So, we think that's a big incentive. And we're expecting to have a good, young family turnout.
So there you go, people. Like I said, I'm taking my young family to go down there and check it out. So maybe we'll see you down there. And if you do see me down there, come say hello. We'll talk it up for a minute. So you can't come on a football show and not talk at least a little bit of football. And you told us that you went to Mississippi State. And the Bulldogs and their new head coach are coming to Athens this year to take on my Bulldogs. So take this opportunity to tell us what you think about the game. How you think Levy and that new squad's going to do out in Starkville?
So, look, I'm not look, I am a homer. I'm a proud homer for Mississippi State. But I'm also, I have the misfortune of having covered college football some during the Sylvester Croom era at Mississippi State for about 3 seasons. And we all know how catastrophic that was to the Mississippi State brand. And so I know a little bit about tempered expectations. I'm super excited about Lebby as a coach, but I'll also complete build and it's year 1. He's a first coach. So there's a lot working against some talent on this roster. There is some on this roster in some places, and it's across the board. And so when you look at it, you've got 9 stars from the transfer portal. That's enough to concern a fan, any coach. These are talent guys.
Oh. So, Ben, you're breaking up on us pretty good here, man. I'm not sure if you can still hear me, but we've lost your signal. So, okay, I got you now. I'm not sure what was going on there. Yeah, but you were bailing on us. It was breaking up pretty good there. So you might want to revisit the top notes there because we lost a good part of that.
Got it. Okay. I was saying, we're trying to take it with a grain of salt because we've got a first-year head coach, complete rebuild, and you have 9 new starters on offense, 4 new starters, and I say new starters, they're transfers. I mean, you have 9 out of your 11 offensive starters are transfers, and then 4 of your starters on defense are transfers. That's a lot. That's more than half of the starting 22. So there's room to be concerned there, but at the same time, there is plenty of talent there to win in year 1. And when I say win, I'm not talking about compete for an SEC championship. I'm not even talking about competing for a playoff berth. Mississippi State had a 13-year bowl streak that got snapped last year in Zach Arnett's only year at the helm. So, really, I think the expectations in Starkville are just get back in a bowl game, get the streak going again, get to 6-6, maybe 7-5. Get back in the postseason, try to get a top 25 signing class, and I think you're back off to the races. And so I think that's what everybody wants from Lebby in year 1. With the you would think the way Mississippi State's schedule has been the last 60 to 80 years, you would think that dropping the SEC East and West would have been a gift because we've had to play Alabama, Auburn, and LSU every year for 60 to 80 years without a break at all. And as a matter of fact, we've played Alabama more than any school ever has. And so that's crazy. And actually we're tied for the most wins in Tuscaloosa, which is something that's kind of strange. That's one of those weird statistics, but we haven't had a lot of success against Georgia in the past. And we certainly have had almost no success in Athens. So I don't think our fan base is expecting to go over there and make a whole lot of noise. And the schedule sets up strange. State's got a chance to go 4-0 out of the gate and finish 6-6. If that tells you how brutal the backside of that schedule is, Greg Sankey did us no favors. You start out with 3 non-con games, 2 of which I think are wins. But, the road trip to Arizona State, neutral site, I'd go Mississippi State all day. But in game 2, new coach, half your starting 22 are transfers. It looks like a trap game on paper. So you just have to make sure that your guys are ready to go and they don't have fatigue and they don't have, they don't get the lights in their eyes and all that kind of stuff. You've got to take care of business the first 3 weeks because week 4, you get Florida coming into Starkville. And Florida is an interesting matchup with Mississippi State in that that's a team that doesn't like to play in Starkville because Mississippi State has won 8 of the last 10 in Starkville against Florida. So that's a game that Billy Napier really better be careful because I think by game 4, I think Lebby's going to have that offense clicking and they're going to give Florida all they want. I think the questions actually are going to be on the defensive side of the ball for Mississippi State where you don't have really a whole lot of marquee names. And that's going to take some getting used to. And, somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, how would you judge both sides of the ball? I said, well, you've got an 8-win offense and a 5-win defense, so hopefully you win 6 or 7 games. But I think if you can figure out a way to get to 4-0, if you can win the 3 non-cons and somehow get a win over Florida at home, then it gets really tricky because you've got road trips to Athens and Austin coming right after that. And then you get A&M and Arkansas at home. You have to split those. Then you get UMass at home the first weekend in November. And that's a game where you think, okay, obviously that's a win, but there's still 3 games left on the schedule, and you may not win another game because you've got a road trip to Knoxville, Missouri at home, and then a road trip to Oxford. It is a brutal not even just back half, but the back 8 games of that schedule are brutal. It's the number, depending on the publication you're looking at, it's the 6th, 9th, or 13th hardest schedule in the country. So we certainly didn't get any favors from the SEC home office there. We were also excited about dropping Bama, Auburn, and LSU, but that did not work out in our favor, picking up Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Mizzou. It's like, and having Ole Miss in what's predicted to be their best year in 50 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's like, welcome to the conference, Jeff Levy. This is the life. This is SEC life. So come on in. See, the water's fine. Just come on in. So that's Mississippi State. So on the whole there, if you're looking out across the landscape of college football as a whole, do you have any thoughts about the new world of college football that we're wandering into?
Well, yeah, I'm always excited in August, because nobody's lost a game yet, and everybody's undefeated, and everybody's excited, and everybody's thinking, hey, we've got a chance to make some noise this year, right? And so I think the excitement is palpable, but the losing some of the rivalries with the divisions going away, that's one thing. And then you've got the playoff thing. And I was listening to some of the guys you had on before talking about how that could water down the conference championships and bowl games and all that. And I don't disagree, but I am excited just because it's new. I'm excited about the fact that a team like Mississippi State, who has finished, I guess 6 of the last 15 years, they've finished in the top 20, 22. So they've been right there knocking on that door to be a playoff team. Dak Prescott's team in 2014 would have been a playoff team. Nick Fitzgerald's team in 2017 or 18 would have been a playoff team. So you've had a couple of years where you can look, not that long ago, where you look and say, okay, well, Mississippi State had a chance to be a playoff team. As a matter of fact, Mike Leach's last team in 2022 would have been knocking on the door to the playoff. I mean, at one point in that season, they were number 15 for a couple of weeks. And so there's a lot of optimism, I think, in those teams that I would say traditionally finish between 10 and 25. Those teams really are, I think, really excited about the playoff. And, I think they're all like, hey, look, I think they think it's an extra motivator, because when it was a 4-team playoff and you knew that your talent was 10 to 25, maybe even 10 to 30, you knew that you weren't going to get in the playoff. And so you weren't playing for a national championship. You were just trying to get into a New Year's Six bowl or a Florida New Year's Day bowl, whatever it was. And now you've got teams on the fringe, and just in the SEC, you've got your Auburns and your South Carolinas, Kentuckys, Mizzou. Those teams are looking around going, hey man, look, we've got a chance. We've got a real chance. A&M, those teams have a real chance to get in and stay alive. And as well as I do, once you get past Thanksgiving, anything can happen. I mean, the bowl games every year is about 50-50 as far as upsets to, favorites winning those games. So I have a feeling it's going to be chaos in the playoff, and I'm here for it. I'm super excited. I can't wait to see a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed go down in the first round and just see how the media reacts, how the fan bases react, and just how the college football world in general just loses its mind. I'm here for that carnage and that chaos.
I agree with that. That'll be fun.
Yeah, well, one thing's for sure, the way it shakes out and the fact that so many other teams might still be in contention for one of those later slots later in the year, it certainly seems like it's going to add a little spice to those rivalry games at the end of the season. You know, they might ratchet that up just a little bit. And so we could have a whole lot of fun right there. Ben,
Look,
thank
every
you so
team
much.
in the country that has 8 wins, every team in the country that has 8 wins with 2 to 3 weeks left, they're playing for everything, all the marbles, you know, and it doesn't matter what the logo on their helmet is. If they're, you know, if they have a potential to get to 10 or 11 wins, whereas that wasn't going to get them in the playoff last year or all the years before, man, they're going to be fighting like crazy. You are going to see another level of competition in November like we've never seen.
Well, that paired with the teams that are at the top and how they choose to manage their rosters down the stretch will also be something else to pay attention to, right?
I agree.
Do you want to let them rest? Do you want to keep your momentum? How do you play it? It's all going to be fun to see. And like you said, I'm here for it. I'm not a huge fan of everything getting bigger all the time, but I'm going to love it because it's college football. And I'm going to stick to that until I'm proven otherwise. So there you go. Ben, thank you so much for coming on here and letting everybody know what's going on. If you're interested in going to FanFest, check out the description below this video here on YouTube. Links to everything are in there. And as parting, Ben here, do you have anything you want to let the people know about, where to find you, check out anything else you got going on?
Yeah, just go find FOLLYWOOD Productions on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, and you can find all of our events on all of those sites. Our homepage is follywood.live. That's our official website, but we get way more traction on the social media sites. So FOLLYWOOD Productions, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all of those sites will have a link to buy tickets to FanFest. The venue holds over 1,000 people. So, just go get your tickets whenever it's convenient to you. And we'll see you Friday, August 30th at Westside Motor Lounge in Midtown Atlanta.
Oh, you'll see me for sure. That's a guarantee. We're going to be there with bells on because we're looking forward to it. I can't wait to start saying go Dogs and have a game like out in front of me, like right there. That's going to be fantastic. Ben, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you down the road. Okay.
Thanks, fellas.
All right.
Hail State.
Yeah, man.
All right, Joe, I told you, man. Lots of surprises tonight. Lots of
Good
surprises.
stuff.
Lots of different takes, different perspectives. I figured the people are going to get their belly full of us this year. So why not, to start things off, have a little flavor? Let's bring a little something else in here and talk about it just a little bit. Don't worry. If you're here for the picks and the back and forth between me and Joe, well, you're going to get that. And starting next week, I talked about it earlier, we're going to go ahead and blow out the budget. You know, all like 2 dimes of it. And we're going to say, we're going to look at all of the 16 teams in the SEC. We're going to make our picks, the predictions for the conference. We're going to talk about some of the big games out there, what realignment means, all of that stuff. We're going to get to that next week. But I hope you've had a fun week here with us on the first episode of season 2 here on the SEC Powers Hour. And I just can't say goodbye, Joe, with just reminding people. There it is, right back there. Black Beauty. She's back there. I know you like it.
Mighty.
I know you like. See,
I know where you live. Don't be surprised if I come up here and that trophy's gone. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if I could get to the ring, but I could totally get to that trophy. Yeah, totally. I get the daughters to let me in the house. Be like, hey, your Uncle Joe's here. Hey.
They would not betray me. They would not betray me. They know what's going on. Joe's like,
we'll see.
Joe's like, that Robux money spins though.
That's
Uncle.
right. Hey, that Robux for real. Uncle Joe's got you. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man, y'all, thanks for being here with us. Don't miss us. We'll be back every Thursday, 7 p.m. We'll do this. We'll get hardcore into the SEC. And don't forget to check me out on Wednesday nights for, your routine, the normal programming of the How About That DawgsCast. We have everything you need as far as the dogs are concerned. We got you covered front to back, top to bottom. Joe comes in on Thursday to add a little flavor. We're going to have a good time. We hope y'all come along with us. Tell a friend. Bring them with you.
That's right.
Support the channel. We'd love to see you. Y'all come on back and see us next week. Joe, any parting shots for the people?
Now, everybody have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Love on each other. And let's talk football and a lot of trash for the next few weeks. I got high school football to call tomorrow night. So we just shift gears, brother, and do it all again. How about it?
That works for me. We'll see y'all next week. Y'all take care of yourselves, take care of your friends, take care of your families and each other. And go Dogs!
Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back.